An ISIS commander blamed for the death of a U.S. Marine was killed today by a drone strike in Iraq. The ISIS member was said to be behind the rocket attack that killed Staff Sergeant Louis Carden and wounded 8 other Marines last month. Also engaged in the fight against ISIS with the help of U.S. forces are Kurdish soldiers, the Peshmerga. Holly Williams has more on this.
For nearly 2 years, Iraq's Kurdish fighters have led the battle against ISIS. Known as the Peshmerga, which means one who faces death, these Kurdish soldiers have helped claw back towns, villages and territory from the extremists. Nearly 1,400 Peshmerga have lost their lives. In a war they're fighting without enough body armour or helmets to go round, with very few heavy weapons, and against an enemy that uses suicide bombs and booby traps.
The Kurds are not only fighting for themselves, but for the rest of the world.
Masrour Barzani is the head of the Security Council in Iraqi Kurdistan, a region that's been plunged into economic crisis by the falling price of oil, with consequences for the Peshmerga.
They haven't been paid for months at least.
They haven't been paid for 4 months?
No.
And they're fighting ISIS on the front line?
They are. They believe in the cause. But unfortunately, they have families. They have people to take care of. And we don't know for how much longer they can stand in the front lines without being paid.
The Kurds say the war against ISIS has cost them billions of dollars, not only in bullets and fighters' pay, but because they've opened their doors to outsiders.
You've taken in 1.8 million people
Yes.
who have fled ISIS.
Yes.
That's a big burden for such a
Yes,
small place.
It is, absolutely. It has increased the population of Kurdistan by almost 30%.
And near the front line, just north of Mosul, a city occupied by ISIS, is another potential disaster. Mosul Dam, which was built by Saddam Hussein's regime on weak foundations, has fallen into disrepair, and dangerously so. Engineers warn that it could break at any time.
What would happen if the dam broke?
A large part of Mosul will be flooded in a matter of a few hours, and then anything on the way, all the way to Baghdad. It would take a few days to reach Baghdad, but it would be flooded, everything on the way.
The US says it could trigger a 45-foot-high flood wave on the River Tigris, endangering the lives of 1.5 million people in a part of the world already suffering the effects of another man-made catastrophe. Holly Williams, CBS News, Erbil, Iraq.
Your men are the ones on the front line defending not just this place, but the whole world from ISIS.
This is what we've been saying, and this is what I think has been recognized internationally, that the Kurds are not only fighting for themselves, but for the rest of the world, especially that this is an international organization, a terrorist organization that has attracted people from all over the world. Unfortunately, we are in the front line on our own, and that's why we are asking for international support to come to the aid of the Peshmergas to make sure that we can defeat this enemy on behalf of the rest of the world.
What kind of support?
Military support mainly. We have been asking for too long, but unfortunately we haven't received the kind of weapons that we need. We are asking to arm Peshmergas to be armed with heavy equipments to outgun the enemy, to easily defeat the enemy, and to protect Peshmergas. But unfortunately, the kind of weapons that Peshmergas have been requesting, until now we haven't received the way that, those kinds of weapons that they need.
And that's costing lives, is it?
Definitely, yes.
And you've lost 1,400 lives so far in the fight?
Yes, and about 8,000 Peshmergas have been wounded, some of them paralyzed, and some of them are still taking treatments, so that is the casualty of war.
An ordinary Peshmerga soldier, how much does he earn a month?
About $500.
And those are the men who are defending all of us from ISIS?
Definitely.
And you haven't been able to pay their salaries for 4 months?
We are trying to pay as much as we can, but the problem is that if there is not enough revenue by the KRG, The priority goes to the Peshmergas, but they have not been paid for a few months now. And unfortunately, even the support for the logistics of Peshmergas hasn't been paid at all.
They haven't been paid for 4 months. How is their morale on the front line?
The morale is very high. I'm sure that you visited some of the Peshmergas in the front lines. They're not fighting for money. But the question is that what is the responsibility of the international community to support this kind of people who are volunteering to fight ISIS and to believe in this cause, to stand against the international terrorism? I think there is a moral responsibility on the international community to come to the assistance of such Peshmergas.